Frisco Bay Area. It's time for Zig in the Zone with Ralph Zig Tycho.
Hello, Zig here, back with Paulie.
That's it, and you can't even see me on camera.
Comfortably Zoned Radio has turned into the Comfortably Zoned Network, and we are a video network now. And
We are.
the couldn't have done it without Edge Studio. Paulie, tell us how things are going down at the studio because I've joined you. Normally I'm on a remote hookup, but I'm in studio today, so I know you're looking good. And what's going on at Edge?
We're just doing what we're doing. We're like, even me, it's always the last minute trying to get things going, right? With
I hear you.
you and I are always trying to get things going here in the studio. Right now, I'm even doing camera angles, and we're 30 minutes into what the show should have been.
Well, things happen, and technology is very, very inexplainable sometimes.
Yes, technology is my mistress, and she's cheating. I'm just telling you now. So, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I want to tell you that I went to an opening of Yolanda Shimone's Sheer Delight and More. She's had a grand opening in Alameda. We are going to sponsor her along the way, and she's going to sponsor us. She is a wonderful woman. I've known her for 15 years, and she's helped on our. I don't know if you're in on this, but I founded a nonprofit about 20 years ago called People Care for Daycare.
Okay.
And we provided warm clothing for children and, more importantly, books. And she helped with the financing of getting that started and the paperwork. And we're going to take care of her in return for as long as she's in business and we're doing a show. So, Yolanda, thanks for having us at the grand opening. And when I say us, Andrew Doza, one of the two attorneys that are sponsoring Zig in the Zone, and also my friend who was on the board of directors of that PC for DC, that nonprofit. He was at the grand opening as well, and I have a picture of him up on my website, and of the two of them together. So it was best of seeing her in her new environment, and I got to talk to Andrew a little bit about what we're doing at Zig in the Zone, and it was a good week from that standpoint, Paulie. And also, we're alive.
Right. That's what you get.
It's a better thing than people realize. It's the main thing we have going. So I want to get you to play that introduction to Lenny Levine. He is
Levine.
Levine. I've always screwed this up because I have friends who are Levines.
I know.
Who are Levines.
That's it. I'm a Levine. I'm from the Levine.
Well, a name by a roast by any other name.
The name would smell. Yeah.
Would smell good in this case. Thanks, man. Thank you for joining the Comfortably Zone Network a while
My
back.
pleasure. My pleasure.
You bring a little class, a little more class into the organization, and I'm just happy to have befriended you. The one story that you and I went over that will be with me for the rest of my life is the most in 1962. The Milwaukee Braves, they were the Milwaukee Braves then. They were playing the New York Mets in a doubleheader, and it was a Jewish holiday. So I couldn't stay for the second game, and neither could my brother, who I had to drag out of there, out of the Polo Grounds, and didn't get to see the second game. In the first game, I think it was Hobie Landreth hit a home run to beat Warren Spahn. And in the second game, Lenny Levine was coming in. We didn't know each other then and wouldn't have recognized each other. But he was coming into the ballpark because he was catching the second game of the doubleheader. Tell us what happened in the second game of the doubleheader.
Well, the second game was also a walk-off home run this time by Gil Hodges, and untypically for Gil, it was to the opposite field. It was the right field. So the Mets won a doubleheader. The lowly New York Mets that only won 40 games that year won 2 of them that day, both on walk-off home runs against the Milwaukee Braves.
It was the second most memorable doubleheader that I went to in 1962. The first one was with the Cubs. And in one of the games, if you'll remember, Marv Thornberry hit what everybody thought was a triple. And he was called out, and I was sitting first row right behind one of the dugouts. I guess it was left field. So I saw this very closely. Casey comes out to argue, and Cookie Lavagetta was the first base coach. And he tells Casey, don't have to bother to argue. Not only did he miss first base, he missed second base as well. And in the second game of the doubleheader, Lou Brock, the immortal Lou Brock, because he went on to the Hall of Fame and he was with the Cubs originally, little skinny kid, real thin, hits one into the bleachers in center field for the Cubs. The second game or the first game of the doubleheader, I don't know which. So I was witness to 2 doubleheaders that will stand out in my mind for the rest of my life. And I'll always remember that you came in for the second game, and that's
we might have passed each other on the way. Who knows?
We might have. You might have given me $50, just for being me, going to the game. No, it was it was historic in both of our memories.
And you said the immortal Lou Brock. So when I hear that, I don't think he's like a great.
No, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I thought it was because he was a vampire. The things I learned hanging out with you just through osmosis.
Literally,
I'm just telling you.
Well,
I'll put my wooden stake away.
I would say this: I would know nothing about vampires if it weren't from things I've learned from you.
Well, thank you.
So we learn from each other.
Simpatico.
And Lenny, not only that, I'm teaching him Yiddish.
Oh, yeah, so, and it's scary.
It is very scary. A brach. Anyway, let's play.
Okay, so let's do this. All right, so tell us a little bit about Ebbets Field and something we're going to listen to.
Okay, this is a song I wrote back in 1995. It happened to be the 40th anniversary of the Dodgers World Series win, only World Series win in Brooklyn. And actually, we're coming up on that anniversary again now, in October of this year. It will be whatever it is, 70 years. But anyway, in this case, I wrote a song about Ebbets Field, about my memories of Ebbets Field. I did it, back in those days, I was writing songs and jingles, and that was that part of my life. And I just got this idea to write a kind of a nice nostalgic song about Ebbets Field. And so I did, using my synthesizers and stuff in my little MIDI studio that I had in one of the bedrooms in my apartment. And that's basically it. It's really good, nostalgic song, and it's called Ebbets Field.
All right, here we go. We're gonna come back for a second because I need to do something, but
okay. Then let's do this. You mentioned the 55 Dodges.
Okay, so I got it. I got it, guys. Yes,
All
I'm
right.
sorry, guys. Here we go. And okay. Oh, no, it's not. You're killing me. I swear.
Symphony, Bedford Avenue, cursing the Yankees, waiting till next year. What else could we do? Who could get over Sal the barber wearing Dodger blue? And how those home runs flew, was it too good to be true? stark windsuits and Abbott's feet. Close my eyes, it's 55. Sandy catching Barrows Drive. Flatbush faithful, still alive. Abbott's feet. Abbott's feet. Abbott's feet.
What do you know? I actually got it to where our mics were live and we came back and we didn't start another song or something.
You know, the combination of those pictures and your wonderful song makes this podcast really stand out. And with the technical problems that we had, it makes it all the more joyous because Paulie and I were talking off the air. We are not ever going to be CNN, but what we like is that it's two of us talking to the guest and just kibitzing and enjoying each other's company and talking about what we enjoy talking about most. What I enjoy talking about is baseball, ganj, and life in no particular order. But so we're talking about baseball today. That thrills me. And I know it stands out why, to me, in knowing you, why I know you're such a passionate fan. When you were a kid, you researched the Dodger numbers in all the times and looked for the number 22. Or you didn't maybe look for the number 22, but you chose the number 22 for one reason or another. Tell me that story.
Right. Actually, well, it was the number 11. Somebody asked on one of these Facebook groups, what uniform number is your favorite uniform number? What's your favorite uniform number? And I said 11 because when I was a kid, there were no Dodger players who wore number 11. So when I imagined myself in my fantasies of not only pitching, but also playing first base, moving poor Gil out to left field, the number I wore in my daydreams was number 11. I was number 11 on the Brooklyn Dodgers. The number was available.
Well, you'll be amused or bemused by the fact that Irene Hodges, Gil's daughter, listens to all my podcasts that center around the Dodgers. So her eyebrows probably went up. Yeah, you'll move, even in your fantasy, you move my dad around off first base.
I mean, I wanted to play. I know. I was, I was a precursor to Shohei Ohtani. The complete ball player.
Absolutely. Before we get into the 55 World Series last game, let me tell you one story about being a Giant fan in 1955. Before that last game was played, I was 11 or 12, and 11, 12, and 55, 9 as a matter of fact. And my neighbor across the street, Neil Silva, was a Dodger fan. And I said to him before the game started, because I really had no horse in that race. The Yankees, the Dodgers, who won it, wouldn't matter. But I made clear to Neil that at that very moment, the world champions were the New York Giants. The Giants at that point, because they won in 54, the miracle beating Cleveland, Willie's catch and all that. I was not happy to see that year come to an end and having the Dodgers. Since getting to know people like Peter Trunk, yourself, Irene, Tony D'Angelo, Claire Hall, who are fanatical Dodger fans, I've softened on that. I often now think of myself as a fan of the golden age of New York, of baseball in New York. I'm a fan of all three in my crazy way. My memories are just as much of Sandy Amorose as they are of Hank Thompson, for instance. I mean, they all blend together. Without the Dodgers, there is no Giants rivalry, and certainly no memories like the Dodgers enhance my memory. Without the Yankees playing in the World Series against, I come to realize they were some great rivalries. That just the Yankees and the Dodgers. I don't think that, and the Yankees played against the Giants in my youth as well in 1951.
1951, unfortunately, yes.
Yes, and unfortunately for a lot of reasons, Mickey Mantle, in chasing down a ball that should have been closer to DiMaggio, but DiMaggio was older than at that point. He stepped in a drain hole. The ball was hit by Willie Mays. What incredible, and really screwed up his knee for a lifetime. He was still came back and was amongst the fastest guys ever. I remember Pedro Ramos was fast in those days, but Mickey could keep up, and Willie was a step behind speed wise. So tremendous memories. Neil, who's in first place if you're out there? Take you back to 1955. Neil Silva, who's in first place right now? Come on, Neil, answer me. He couldn't answer because 20 minutes later, or 4 hours later, it would have been the Dodgers. They are the world champions. And how was that for you as a lifelong, at that point, life wasn't that long, but as a Dodger fan, what were your first thoughts?
Well, my particular experience with it was that I missed the game, actually. Usually in those days, if you remember, all the World Series games were in the daytime, and the only time us kids could watch the whole game would be on weekends. Games that were during the week, started at 1 o'clock or 1:30, and we didn't get out of school until 3, and they would let us listen on the radio. Somebody would bring in a radio to the classroom, and many times, that we could listen to it. But then as soon as school was over, we would run home, and catch the final 3 innings, maybe 3 at most innings of the game. So for the 55 World Series, for Game 7, there was a big event taking place in my high school, Lafayette High School. One of the biggest events there was the Sing, which was like a talent show where the seniors and the juniors and the sophomores competed. Each one wrote a show and performed or whatever. And I was a sophomore, and we were told that there would be a meeting for the sophomore Sing right after school today. said, but it's the World Series. It's the 7th game of the World Series. Evidently, whoever was running the Sing couldn't give a shit. We were going to have a meeting, and if you didn't come to the meeting, you couldn't be in the Sing. Well, for God's sake. So we came down there to the auditorium with about 30, 40 kids, and somebody was on the stage with a microphone running the meeting, and a bunch of us had a radio. And so all we could do was sit there at the Sing meeting and try to hear the thing on the radio. And so we did. We heard it. I don't even know if I remember hearing about Amorosa's catch. It was just like whatever you could get from the kid that was nearest the radio, who would then pass it on to what was going on in the game. And then when they won, they just, we just 4 or 5 of us that were near the radio just went crazy. And everybody else, including the non-baseball fan guy that was running the Sing, said, well, what's going on? Now, come on, we're running a meeting here. So that was my memory of Game 7 of the World Series.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's give both of us a chance to listen, not talk, to Paulie.
Oh my God.
Paulie has
no pressure at all. Well, what am I talking about? I can talk about anything.
I'm just asking you, Paulie, that was a great memory by a pure baseball fan. You're not as pure a baseball fan, but you have baseball memories.
Oh, absolutely.
What are some of your favorites?
I would have to say early 70s A's baseball, mid 70s, early 80s Giants baseball. Just in general, I was one of those kids that could go to a lot of games here in the Bay Area. I was very fortunate. Even if it was just silly field trips with school or getting bleacher seats for like $10.
Right.
That's a memory, $10 bleacher seats. Hello. Yeah. That was a great thing. The Battle of the Bay series, something we're not going to see anymore.
That was the earthquake.
Yeah, the 89 Loma Prieta earthquake.
That brings me to a very sore point. The Giants are partially, if not totally, responsible for the A's moving. Not directly, but years ago. And the Giants, because of territorial rights that they thought they had, excluded the A's from moving to San Jose, and thereby taking the A's out of the Bay Area eventually. What the Giants don't and didn't realize is that natural rivalry helped both teams. In 1989, that Loma Prieta that you mentioned, Lenny, the Giants were drawing 3 million people a year, and the A's were drawing 3 million people a year. So the idea that the Bay Area couldn't support 2 teams was absolutely bogus, and John Fisher, the owner of the A's, and the powers that be in Alameda County and in Oakland, it's two separate things, combined to force the A's to go elsewhere.
One thing we can actually lose in our world, at least in my world, what I could do without, people say famine, hunger, world peace, whatever. So politics, just take the politics out of everything, right? Baseball is supposed to be pure. A pure sport. You've talked about it on multiple shows about eminent domain. How many kids' dreams have been crushed because their team gets uprooted and pulled to some other city?
Ours, Lenny, am I correct? Our dreams were when the Dodgers moved and the Giants moved, it wasn't just the kids, though, and that's the most important thing, kids and the elderly. Now that I'm elderly, I realize that so much that old people going to A's games for a long time. It's absolutely disgraceful to build a fan base and then take it away from the kids. We were crushed. The city of New York was crushed.
Oh yeah. It was the first time that two successful teams had moved out of a city. When the Boston Braves moved to Milwaukee, they were a second division team. When the St. Louis Browns moved to Baltimore to become the Baltimore Orioles, they were a second division team or even a last place team. So you can understand. But the Dodgers and the Giants were like bedrock franchises that had been wildly successful for like 20 years, and they were moving. It never happened before with a successful team moving out of the city.
Well, a lot of it with the Giants, they were going to move. The city of New York wasn't taking care of the polo grounds, and they were forced literally to move.
Yeah.
But O'Malley had the most profit making organization in the National League. And he had planned the move west, which incidentally worked out quite well over the years for the people in Los Angeles. But they could have waited for their own franchise, and O'Malley had help in the move. I mean, Robert Moses didn't help. Robert
Moses didn't help at all.
Robert Wagner, the mayor at the time, didn't help. But people that are uninformed blame those two more than they do O'Malley. Well, if Moses would have done this, no, it was O'Malley who planned the move way before 1957.
And Robert Wagner, the actor, didn't do a damn thing.
No, he didn't.
he stood there,
except
just watching it all go down. Thanks, Robert.
He was.
Sorry, go ahead. I have to get this out when I can.
He was out swimming with his girlfriend.
Yeah, he was out.
Bring that about Natalie Wood.
Natalie Wood was a beautiful woman.
Just dead.
Yes,
I mean,
she
was absolutely drop dead.
Yes, she was.
And Natalie Wood didn't have an easy life.
Can we actually say that he killed her now? I think we can.
Well,
it was either him or Christopher Walken, and because he was on the boat too, and he's always so Robert Wagner always plays the nice guy, and Christopher Walken always plays the weird one.
Well, I want you to know that I have an alibi.
You have an alibi.
So I'm not. Don't worry about me, guys.
I was driving that nice girl from Chappaquiddick at the time, and
the scandals, both in baseball, in life, in politics, plus the assassination. We live in a third world country where we can allow a president to even be thinking about, and what's on my mind, Social Security. Screwing with Social Security.
I'm waiting for the duck from. You remember the duck from You Bet Your Life?
Absolutely. Right. That's the most.
He said the secret word. It was Social Security.
Well,
you win $300.
Say the secret word. Divide $100. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard.
Yeah, I can even hold the cigar.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm waiting for. But that's what it is. It's like we can't even talk about baseball.
Right. Our minds are drawn from what we like because there is real fear that he's going to fuck things up beyond control.
Yeah.
Oh, you think? Wait, hold on.
No.
Him?
Well, it's a scoop. It's a scoop right here
Yeah,
on
right here.
Comfortably
It's
Zoned.
an
right.
exclusive here on Zig In The Zone.
Right. And I want you to say that I stole the scoop from other people.
I think when he does something wrong, it should be like a kid caught in a cookie jar. You should see like orange Cheeto dust on like doorknobs and stuff, right? You should know that he's been tampering with something.
Well, the Facebook has eliminated.
Like flaming hot Cheeto dust, even. I'm sorry. That's for you kids at home. Sorry.
We get more people to listen to us from Facebook, and there's a certain
I get more
And
people
more-
to listen to us on Facebook than I do at home, but go on.
right.
Go
Well,
on, please. Really, I'm sorry. I'm just in one
my
of those
point
moods.
is Facebook has eliminated fact checkers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's. Can you
We don't
imagine
need
doing
those
that?
people.
Well,
fact
I
checkers?
saw that the other day with him, but you actually have to have fact checkers to be able to eliminate them. So I'm feeling still okay. It's still the status quo over at Meta.
That's right, but Zuckerberg doesn't feel all that bad
And I can
about
tell.
having to appease Trump and eliminate fact checkers, and he's one of the millionaires that their whole lives are appeasing.
These are
Trump.
cycles. We're going through repetitive cycles. So we all do it. The American government goes through it. The American people go through it. Even things like Mark Z at Meta goes through it. I can tell the tighter his curls are on his head, the more he's got issues. But literally every administration, he goes in and says whatever he needs to say to them.
Okay.
And this time he's making him happy.
Let me
Well, the
tell you.
idea, though, of eliminating fact checkers in the name of free speech is one of the great ironies. You know, it's like Orwellian, that free speech means freedom to lie. You know, that's what they think free speech is. And
Not under a dictatorship. And he really thinks he's a dictator at this point.
Oh, for sure.
He's
for
a
sure.
king. In his mind, he's a king. Now, what my only hope in how we're going to get out of this is the federal courts stopping him along the way from the bullshit that he's trying to put on us.
I think as soon as we become part of the Russian Union, it will be fine. Everything will smooth out.
Right. There you go. That's the answer to it.
Yeah,
There you go.
Putin's got a special window to push him out of.
that's true.
So this is what I think. So you know how back in his first presidency they were talking about the PP tape?
Oh God.
Okay. So I don't. So I'm gonna put the camera on you, Lenny, because I didn't believe it then, but he's got something on him. He's got something on him, right?
He's got money on him. He gave him a lot of money. He bailed
He's
him out.
got more
after
than a
he
dog in the race
failed.
or a pony in the race. He's more
all
of a
of
dog.
those oligarchs bought Trump properties to launder their money through, and he owes them big time, in the wallet, just like he owes Elon Musk now $250 million. He's been bought, and it's not about catching him with a prostitute who's peeing on the bed or any of that stuff. That's all shiny objects that's easy for people to understand more than money laundering and buying your way into a political situation. I mean, that's just all spectacular stuff that really isn't even important, certainly compared to everything else he's done. Having a prostitute take a leak on a hotel bed for his amusement. I mean, please.
But that might be the
cares,
straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to some of these people. We still don't know what Trump's kryptonite is. Every morning I wake up. I used to wake up in the morning and say, "Hey Google, tell me the latest news." Now I just say, "Hey Google, tell me what the fuck he's done this time." And so and then Google goes, "Oy vey." So, I'm just telling you.
See, I'm teaching him well.
You're teaching me well. And so I'm teaching Google well too. So, but that's it. It just my friend, my dear past friend, Patrick Carlin. He used to think it's a shit show, and this is entertainment, and this is like he said the other day when Zelensky left, it got kicked out of the White House. He says this is gonna make for good TV.
Exactly.
What the fuck?
Unbelievable.
Exactly. That's the only thing that he can relate to is are going to get eyeballs on it. And so it's all just a bunch of distractions and shiny objects and people discussing. I mean, talking about prostitutes peeing on the bed. I mean, that's how you get away with stuff. You get people all distracted by these things that really are not important, and then you slip in what you really want to get away with.
And we know he does this, and we know he does this for attention, right? And I think he would have got this much attention, if not more, if we wouldn't have voted him into office this time, and we would have just gave him another reality TV show. Okay, follow me. This is the 30-second pitch. It's The President. It's like The Apprentice.
Right.
But we tell him he's the president, and he can hire and fire and take a chainsaw to government programs. He can do whatever he wants. But at the end of the show, we're okay. It's really just a TV show.
Just a TV show, but it's not. That's the
problem.
He
like
didn't face a firing squad for his insurrection on January 6th. And that was a disgrace on America.
Yeah.
And Mitch
this guy is, he's not only a traitor. Here I am. I'm saying this. It's going to be preserved for all time. We're going to come after.
Here, I'll take your lower thirds off.
We're
joining us today is John Smith.
On record. But he is arguably the greatest traitor in American history.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, for a man as president to try to steal an election in the way that he did, violently overthrow the government,
and all this stuff went down. All this stuff went down, and people still voted for him in this election.
Yep. It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
That's the most impressive thing about this.
The Woody Guthrie stories with his father. His father was a slumlord. He taught this kid well.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
From slumlord to slum.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's
nice.
He wasn't
a heartwarming story.
It was just horrible, and he's
of a father in his sloth.
My point, the whole overall point is, you gotta blame the plurality as much as you blame Trump, in the sense that all he is a user. But he needed permission to be the user. And the people that gave him that, how could you vote for that motherfucker? How could you stay home? 44% of the eligible voters.
That's the thing about the people that didn't think it was important enough,
right,
to go vote.
What's wrong? Did they ever take a civic class
that will make them think it's important enough?
When we were kids, we got in school, we got what was known, and I know you did in Brooklyn, we did in Queens, the Weekly Reader.
Yes.
And it was a civics class for kids. And it made us appreciate the idea our grandparents, our parents, and those kids could not imagine the possibility of losing a democracy. Unbelievable. And what it's come to. There should be a Weekly Reader in kids' language so they understand it. That every kid gets in every school. They don't have
Civics
that.
should be taught to everybody in school. Because if you don't understand how government works, then people can tell you any lies about government and you wouldn't know any better.
Right.
So that if you keep people ignorant of how things work, then you can tell them anything.
Just to take a moment to talk about how great, in retrospect, the New York City education was.
Yeah.
Every class, I remember in the sixth grade, fifth, fourth grade, going all back, you could buy either a Herald Tribune or a New York Times, and they'll deliver it right to your room, right to the room that's being taught.
Mhm.
So if you chose, and I did for the sports, but the world had to rub off on you, and they knew it when they tried to educate us. That, yeah, you're giving the kid some sports, but he or she is better off learning what's going on in this world than not going on. And we knew it. We knew it. The Kennedy assassination took the heart out of us all. And others to follow. But I can remember thinking, Lyndon Johnson is the president of the United States. It just wasn't the same.
No, that's when the 60s really began, the day Kennedy was assassinated.
Absolutely. And the day that Reagan changed the tax structure is when our
That started the inequality that we see
that's
today.
right.
It
That's
started
right.
us on the path to inequality, and it also Reagan, who was I guess a sweet guy who meant well, but he started culture wars. He told people that we didn't make a mistake in Vietnam, and we should stop thinking we made a mistake. He called it a noble enterprise, and he gave people who always resented the counterculture and the new left a reason to resent them. And it was about long hair. It was about drug use. It wasn't about the things that really were the issues. You got distracted again with just like what Trump is doing with all these shiny objects. We're distracted by.
All three of us know.
Reagan distracted the country with culture wars against. We shouldn't feel guilty. We should, that people with long hair who do drugs shouldn't listen to them. It has nothing to do with what they're saying. Don't listen to what they're saying. We're not talking about what they're saying. We're talking about the long hair and the drugs. That's all. And
The
that's
drugs, at least initially, the drugs were marijuana.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. But I lost my train of thought.
You were saying about
It
the
was the
three of us.
marijuana.
It was the marijuana. Yeah. I thought it was
probably because of the drugs. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, that was the culture. Oh, another thing that the good man, quote unquote, did was that he completely ignored the AIDS epidemic.
Oh God, yes.
Until
go ahead. Yeah, you're going to say what I think you're saying. Go ahead.
Until thousands of people died, and
that didn't even matter. It was till his friend Rock Hudson got AIDS.
Right.
Republicans so many times don't get involved in issues until it actually touches them personally. Liberals believe that not enough people are being helped. Conservatives believe that not enough people are being punished. That's their outlook on life. And until it hits them personally, and there's a personal reason for them to get involved, anybody that's not like them can go screw themselves.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, Trump has just pardoned Pete Rose
Yeah.
for
Pardon.
everything
For
he
what?
ever did across the board. Part of
Yeah.
what he did was tax evasion. He
Yeah.
served he served time in prison. Others
Yeah.
do. That's not the point. Um, you pardon a guy like Pete Rose? What are you telling people? What
Of course. Of course.
uh, what are we gonna tell our grandkids when they ask? And my kids are gonna have to answer to their kids when they ask, "Where were you when this went on?" Couldn't somebody do something?
Well, and remind me, wasn't Pete Rose's why he didn't get to go to the Hall of Fame and everything else because he was betting?
Gambling on baseball.
He was
Yeah.
gambling on baseball, but it was also his own team,
Right.
and it was like for losing, or it was
Ac-
basically it was like almost like he was throwing the games.
Let me
Well,
tell
he
you.
didn't
Let
bet
me
on the team to lose. That was his excuse. If he bet on his team, it was to
by
win.
not betting.
But by how much? You know.
No,
Right.
but he'd bet on his team. He wouldn't bet to lose. What he would do, and this is what got him, was as a manager, he would bet games that he thought Cincinnati would win, but he wouldn't bet against Cincinnati. He just wouldn't bet that day. So what he was telling the bookies by not betting was everything they needed to know. Because Pete Rose, say what you want, was an astute baseball mind and would have made a great manager for years to come. But unfortunately, he had his demons. And one of his demons was that he couldn't simply, because we're Americans and we give people a second chance, he couldn't say, I was wrong for the longest time. He flaunted it. He'd sign autographs. Yes, I bet on baseball, blah, blah, blah. And he wouldn't apologize. And even if he didn't mean it, I wouldn't expect him to mean it, but I would expect him to cop to it, and he would have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. And
Yes, that's right. He was never he had no remorse about it.
right,
So,
none whatsoever.
So how can you forgive a guy if he's not asking for your forgiveness? Leave him alone. Don't forgive him.
Exactly. And the mindset too, there of all the people to give pardons to, all the people in the world, and all the things that Trump has on his mind, his plate, if he doesn't, if it's not just a helping of McDonald's, if it's something that he's concerned with, why choose Pete Rose? Doesn't that tell you what kind of a man he is? And didn't we all know what kind of a man he was and still voted for him?
Sure.
Or didn't vote? So it's like your friend said, it's a freak show.
Oh yeah.
It's a shit show. It's a shit can on fire. That's what I said. And just like Reagan didn't do anything about AIDS, what Trump didn't do about COVID.
Oh my God! He caused conservatively 10% of the COVID deaths. There were 1 million people died of COVID in America, and at least 100,000 of them died because of listening to Donald Trump, showing up at rallies, super spreader events, not wanting to get vaccinated, all of those things. And he not only didn't do anything about COVID, he actively promoted the spread of COVID And I would say that at least 100,000 people died because of him.
Well, and so even things like that, he's untouchable. When he
Right.
said he could go in the middle of Fifth Avenue, shoot
That's
someone,
right.
and they would die, or they and
That's
he
right.
would never get.
And he wouldn't lose a single vote. Yeah.
And now he has
Right,
the Supreme
right.
Court.
Well,
He
listen-
has the Supreme Court to tell everybody that it's okay. So he really could one day just open up fire.
Oh, he will. I bet he will.
Oh,
The
it's
first
going to be
time
ugly.
a demonstration that he doesn't like, and
Right.
he
Or
will.
a
The
quote,
other-
a traitor, or he'll go to the CNN press room or
Yeah.
MSNBC.
I think it was Sunday morning when I woke up and I was listening to the news because I ingest a little bit of happiness, not a little bit of news early in the morning, and I get my 15 minutes in. And it was a CNN panel, and they were the crawl across the bottom of the screen was like I forget how old she was. I want to say she was 13-year-old girl killed herself because of the ICE raids, and she thought they were coming to get her or her dad, and so she committed suicide.
It reminds me of
And I
Anne
thought to
Frank.
myself, that's the one, because it's a child and nobody could resist, children getting hurt. No. It's not the children in cages. It's not,
No.
It doesn't matter what comes out of that man's mouth. They're eating the dogs. I don't care what he says. No matter what, they need to put a net over him.
That was one of the most shocking things about this election was he embarrassed himself in that debate with Kamala Harris, just spouting this insane bullshit like a crazy man raving. And I said, look, the whole country is seeing this. My God, look at this. The whole country is seeing this. And it didn't matter. And that's what I've always been sort of optimistic. I used to think, no matter how bad things got, I would say, well, I remember 1968. 1968 was the most frightening year in my life in terms of the future of our country. Well, we've blown by 1968 by now. That, the things that will be accepted or ignored are far beyond what we used to being offended at, and I feel very pessimistic. I feel like it's not going to matter. For instance, they're taking the polls, and he's sinking in the polls. His job approval rating is going down, and of course, he keeps doing this, and more people will say that that they don't approve his job, and eventually he'll be underwater in the polls, and then he'll find a way to cancel the polls.
Right. Dictators will
That's
do
all.
stuff like that.
That's all.
They already said the other day, somebody said on a news program, they said that I forget how much of his base is having buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh yeah, well duh. Because and they said the biggest reason was he said the thing he was gonna end on day one was inflation.
Inflation, right.
And you know what I'm doing? You know what I'm doing after today's podcast, right? I'm actually going to the bank to take a second loan out on my house, my mortgage, because I like omelets. I would like an omelet every morning. And so it's either the house or the eggs.
Well, how
what
about
came first, the chicken or the egg?
How about
There you
this exchange of ideology? For inflation, we gave up Roe v. Wade, and everyone has a mother, a sister, a daughter, a niece, a loved one, a lover. It's gonna fuck our society up. Sexually, it's gonna screw us up. And people say, well, it's a state matter. But if you're living in the state and you're pregnant, you're a poor person and can't afford the bus fare and make the arrangements to
take off
stay.
work.
More murder. Neither of you guys remember when the wire hanger was in vogue.
I remember that. You keep kidding? I'm older
Women
than
were
you are.
getting infections and dying.
Oh, back alley abortion.
Now, women, 16-year-olds, that was homemade abortions. That's we're going to go back to that. There are going to be ramifications, and then there will be lawsuits against the government, either class action suits or individual suits, and those people will get big bucks, never enough. But what's it going to do to our economy?
Well, it's funny because so that's what I was thinking. It's a numbers game, right? And so economy is based on how many people are in the pool. And if you look at trending numbers over the last decade, population numbers have gone down. Why? Because this generation that are having babies aren't. Why? Because they're doing what they call the Netflix and not chill. They're watching TV, they're doing this, they're too busy, this and that. They're not having kids. So now you have a person that's taking away Roe v. Wade, and population numbers should go up, but it's really not going to offset it that much. It's really not going to be like, holy smokes, now the numbers are going the opposite way. It's not going to happen that way. The things that are going to happen are there's going to be more people that are traveling over borders, more people that are doing illegal abortions, more doctors that are like Dr. Kevorkian, but they're going to be abortion doctors that are performing.
That's how it was back in the 60s.
Right. And
so there was,
and he says, let's leave it to the states. A lot of our states are so... We still have states that you can die by firing squad.
Yeah, right. I mean, leave it to the states. Why don't you make murder?
No, they're not backwards at all.
No.
They're not. They're just catching up.
Well, the people that believe abortion is murder, how can they at the same time say leave it to the states? So in other words, you're going to leave it to the states as to whether murder is legal? I mean,
well, then then what I say, give that unborn fetus an AK-47.
And
so let him defend himself.
Look,
nothing's too young.
The future is going to be millions of unloved children will come into the world, and then when they grow old enough, they'll be well armed.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how many people you run into who confuse the word fetus with baby.
The baby, right.
Right.
I mean, it's a fetus. It doesn't have life, and it isn't entitled to live if the woman does.
Potential human.
Yeah, potentially. For whatever reason, a woman needs control of her body and not kowtow to government. So, in wrapping all of this up, because I know that time is an essence, please come back and talk about what my main thing is, which we've covered all three. The main thing wrong with the United States, the world we live in, is government, organized religion, and big business. And you can see out there, if you're listening, how our talking about this puts things into perspective. And it makes our podcast more than just yakking baseball. It gives importance to what we do. And from my standpoint, getting guests that Paulie is interested in is my litmus test. And Lenny, you are terrific. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Can I say something about my book?
Absolutely, yeah.
Please do. Do you have that bad boy? Hold it up for us.
Okay, I got two books that I've written that I'd like to tell you about. One of them is about baseball. It's called Die Hard Fan. Let me see if I can get it up here on the
Go back a little bit. Perfect. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. And you see, I would feel like my fingers are covering it. But it takes place in the final week of the 1951 season, leading up to Bobby Thompson's home run, and it's a murder mystery in which Giant fans are being killed, and the protagonist, the hero of the story, is a 12-year-old boy, and people. His father is suspected of doing this, and because his father is an incredible Dodger fan, as he is too. I mean, they both just love the Dodgers. And his father is an alcoholic who is subject to fits of depression and anger. And it would seem like his father was the one that's committing these crimes. So he tries to prove his father's innocence, and ultimately it gets all complicated. But simultaneously with the real events of that final week, you got real games that go on and descriptions of the real games. And ultimately, the climax takes place as Bobby Thompson is hitting the home run. I had to coordinate everything, my fictional characters and the real world characters. And it all comes out at the end. The suspense and the climax takes place just at the moment that Bobby Thompson hits the home run. So
Wow.
check it out, hardcover and paperback, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Hardcover, paperback, Nook and Kindle too. Yeah, Nook
There you
and
go.
Kindle too.
So diehard fan,
Die-hard fan.
a
And then the
mystery
second
novel.
book-
There we go.
Second book is another mystery, and it's about another part of my life when I sang jingles. I sang and I wrote jingles. And this is Death in the Jingle Jungle, it's called. And this is kind of a funny book. You know, it's got laughs in it as well. But it's about the jingle business, which is very competitive. God, I got to try and get my hands really good. I think there it is. There it is.
And
There you
next
go.
time I'll grab those photos from you. So one thing I've noticed that when we played Ebbets Field,
Yes,
it really had that jingle feel.
there you go.
I mean,
That's what I did. That's what I did for a living for 20 years. I wrote and I sang on jingles, and I sang backup for a lot of people. I sang backup for Billy Joel. I sang backup for Neil Diamond. I wrote songs that were recorded by Diana Ross, the Pointer Sisters. Barry Manilow performed one of my songs.
Anybody big that we might have heard of?
Yeah, anybody really that we could have heard of by then? You know, I've sang with all those guys before. Of course, it was in my car, in the shower.
Of course.
It was
No, I
by
was really on
myself.
the stage with them.
Oh, okay.
I really was part of the thing.
All right. Hey, listen, come back soon, come back often. That's what, and excuse our technical shit. But,
Me too. My technical shit. I couldn't get it together either.
That made this morning. I knew you were going through the same thing we were, and that made it bearable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you. And next time we'll get all the technical stuff down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All of it. And it'll be all done. And you could vote for me. I'm going to take care of inflation at the same time. Get the
You bet.
technical stuff done and take care of inflation. And just vote for me.
And
There
don't
you go.
and
Okay.
don't forget, guys, even though we're 3 old men, we finally got it up. The podcast.
As it were.
That's right.
The podcast. For myself, the Zig Man, and Lenny, thanks, buddy, for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. Anytime.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time in the zone.
Nice show.
Until then,
Nice show.
until then, we'll see you guys next week. All right.
All right.